All right, and we're live. This is Impact Showdown Radio coming at you live right now on blogtalkradio.com and at our sister website at infinityoneproductions.com. What's up, everybody? How's it going? This is the Black Avenger, Lee Sanders. Thank you all for tuning into this episode right now on August 30th, 2012. We pretty much got this month wrapped up in the books. Definitely welcome those of you that's listening to us live right now on blogtalkradio.com and at our sister website at infinityoneproductions.com and also heard live on Stitcher. We definitely want to hear what you all have to say about tonight's episode of TNA Impact Wrestling, as we'll be opening up the phone lines in the later part of the show. So if you want to get that head start right now and call in, feel free to kick back, smile, and dial. You can hit us up at 646-478-3525. Once again, that's 646-478-3525. I'm a little bit off tonight. It's a little bit hot down here. Whew, I definitely got a cold, refreshing, tasty beverage ready to go. So we just saw TNA Impact Wrestling live go off the air. We have more questions that have been raised as those damn aces and eights were added again. For those of you that missed tonight's episode, we're definitely going to get you all caught up. We'll also be covering the latest in TNA wrestling-related news, as it's been a very active week. We got a few headlines that definitely jumped out there. For those of you that might have missed it, it's definitely going to be news to you. We'll definitely get you all caught up. So for those of you that want to interact with us, feel free to do so. We got the chat room that's open right now at Blog Talk Radio, and we also have Twitter. You know, you can interact with us during the show as we're live on the air each and every single week. Hit us up on Twitter at Infinity1Prod. While you're at it, take the time to hit us up on Facebook, like our page, follow us at Infinity One Productions on Facebook. So we saw a pretty solid installment of TNA Impact Wrestling tonight. I love how this episode came on. I love how it was during the night. I love the strong finish that it had, as I just felt that they really hit a home run with this episode, seeing as how it was the final Impact Wrestling for the month of August. Now we have to go into September, where it's really going to be crunch time for TNA. Tonight definitely was on point, as we had got a recap from the event that was shown last week on the Open Fight Night edition of Impact Wrestling, as we're greeted by Mike Tenay, who shows up recap of those damn aces and eights. And was I the only one that was looking at the way aces and eights had arrived at the Impact Arena last week, especially when Mike Tenay had showed the footage from last week with all of the aces and eights gang members, or part of an organization? I don't know what the hell you want to call it. I look at that as a gang. Frick that. And I'm saying to myself as I saw this, definitely tonight, but as well as last week, I said, what the hell are we watching here? Are we watching a preview for the next new season of Sons of Anarchy on FX? What the hell is going on here? And I was just really loving the recap. You almost forgot that a lot of stuff had happened on last week's Impact Wrestling Live. I mean, it was just so many different storylines that was all playing out on that episode. But we would see Austin Aries, the TNA World Heavyweight Champion, kick things off as he comes down to the ring, and he tells Aces and Eights that they made very miscalculated, that is, mistakes, as he points out that them injuring his right hand, well, it turns out Austin Aries is left-handed, so they messed up right there. And the fact that Austin Aries is still standing, they didn't quite get the job done, as Austin Aries tells Aces and Eights that he wants them, that he wants a piece of them tonight. Well, we would see Hulk Hogan and Sting. Now, for those of you that might have missed it last week, Hulk Hogan didn't necessarily make an appearance live in person at the Impact Arena, but his presence was definitely felt tonight as Hulk Hogan officially returned to the Impact Arena along with Sting. And Hulk Hogan was coming in peace to the TNA World Heavyweight Champion, letting him know that, hey, they appreciate the fact that Austin Aries, he wants a piece of the Aces and Eights, but they want a piece of the gang as well. As Hulk Hogan says to Austin Aries, you have our full support. Whatever you want to do, champ, it's fine by us. Austin Aries, he loves the fact that he has Hogan's support. Now, he just wants him a piece of some of those damn Aces and Eights. Well, up on the Titantron, we would see the Aces and Eights appear, and we have that main lead guy, that thick guy, who is talking, as always, and he tells them that basically they will be coming out to accept this challenge, but it's going to be on their time, and it's going to be on their terms. So the stage is set, as we will know later tonight. Aces and Eights, they will be popping up. From there, folks, we had saw throughout the night Backstage Pass, which was, honestly, you didn't really miss anything with this week's Backstage Pass, as they tried something new. They had this guy by the name of Jimmy J, I believe is his name, and he was just doing what I thought was a pretty, I won't say terrible job, but I wasn't really into what he was saying. I mean, every single time we turned around, we saw Jimmy J, who was sitting up, and he was plugging all types of merchandise that you could get on TNAWrestling.com. He was also talking about the new figures that were coming out. I mean, he was just talking about all types of other stuff, and I couldn't help but pay attention to a lot of the comments that was being said towards this guy on YouTube, and a lot of the guys, they just were not liking this guy. I know me specifically, because I was on there as well interacting with those of you on YouTube, so if you took the time to interact with us on there during Backstage Pass, mad shout out to you. But we were looking at some of these comments, and we commented as well. We said, hey, look, if you're going to sell merchandise, you got to do it the Don West style, because nobody does it better than Don West. And this guy, though he was trying, he just was not really captivating. I kept saying to myself, where is Jeremy Borash? He just has that nice voice. It sounds smooth. Yeah, he may have his rough spots here and there, but Jeremy Borash's style I just preferred so better than this guy, Jimmy J. But in either case, we would get Jimmy J throughout the night. But Backstage Pass, we would see Jeremy Borash basically recap what had just happened with Austin Aries in the ring with the Aces and Eights. Now, from there, we continue on with Impact Wrestling as we see a funny little backstage skit of ODB, who's on the cell phone. She's been trying for a few hours to get in contact with Eric Young, as she's been waiting on him for that damn bucket of chicken and beer, and she tells him that she needs some loving and that she's been having to open her doors to people, so to speak, to get that yearning attention that she needs. Really hilarious stuff right here as she tells EY, hey, hopefully I'll see you next week. Otherwise, there's going to be some serious problems. From there, we see the current Bound for Glory leaderboard status, as the main thing that is highlighted all throughout tonight is we want to pay attention to the top 5 names on this series, because these will be the guys that will 9 times out of 10 go into the final 5, and then we will just eventually break it down to the final 2 participants that will take each other on at the No Surrender pay-per-view. So let me just read the top 5 names. Actually, I'll read the top 6 names to you guys right now, and these were the names that we had to focus on tonight, which was James Storm, Samoa Joe, Rob Van Dam, Bully Ray, AJ Styles, and Kurt Angle. Now, minus Bully Ray, because Bully Ray would not see any type of ring action tonight, which I thought was a little bit weird, but it was okay. We would see the other guys go in matches in a Bound for Glory series matches as points were up for grabs. And in our first Bound for Glory Series match, we saw the Cowboy James Storm defeat Rob Van Dam via pinfall to pick up 7 points. Now, of course, by picking up those 7 points, James Storm, he continues to lead the pack, and he definitely secured his spot in the Final 5 series. Now, backstage segment we go now as we see Madison Rayne, who is warming up a little bit, and she's getting ready to make her way out to the ring as we see another backstage segment, or backstage pass, rather, as we see Jimmy J, who is just continuing to plug the lovely TNA toys, posters, T-shirts. But afterwards, we see Jeremy Borash come back with RVD as he's fresh off of the defeat from James Storm, as he questions exactly what is going to be next for his career. RVD, he gets a really cool surprise as he's greeted by none other than Scotty Riggs. These two guys, they go way back apparently, and Scotty Riggs, he hasn't been on TV in about 10 years, and looks like time's been a little bit kind to him. Sounds like he might have been having a few drinks here and there, but he still sounded pretty good, looked pretty good nonetheless, and he's giving RVD a pat on the back, letting him know he doesn't have anything to feel sorry about, that he's RVD, he's the man, and RVD, he's chalking up the loss. He's not really taking it seriously. He just knows that as far as his fans are concerned, as long as he keeps coming into the ring and entertaining, doing the five-star frog, try saying that 10 times fast, 5-star frog splash. You have to say it a little slow sometimes until you get it down right. And doing his kicks and entertaining the crowd, nothing else really matters right now. And the two of them, they had went off to go catch up on old times. As from there, we see the lovely Killer Queen, Madison Rayne, come down to the ring, and she reveals how Brooke Hogan had called her over the weekend to put her in a match for tonight. And Madison Rayne is under the impression that maybe, just maybe, she's going to get vindication in the form of having a rematch against the lovely Miss Tessmacher for the TNA Knockouts Championship, and she is ready for her match. Well, we would hear the music of one ODB come on, and you know, Madison Rayne, she was just standing there and she was looking a little bit perplexed. ODB would reveal that she too had a phone call from Brooke Hogan, who revealed that she also was going to be having a match at the very same time. So it appears that ODB will be taking on Madison Rayne. But Madison Rayne, she tried to do her best to stop ODB from coming down to the ring, and she tried to get new Knockouts referee Taryn Terrell a heads up and try to get ODB away from her and let the match officially start so that she can possibly teach ODB a thing or two, and basically send her back to her trailer park home, as she liked to call it. Nonetheless, here we saw ODB squash Madison Rayne in just under 2 minutes. I was expecting a little bit more of a match here. Just seems like within recent weeks, the Knockouts matches have been a little bit shorter. Kind of really hard to look forward to this when they're kind of pulling a certain you-know-what card from another company up in Connecticut, if you know what I mean. I don't want to say the name out loud because we don't want to appear as if we're bashing here. We're not trying to, but I just have great concern for the recent knockout matches that we've been getting in recent weeks. Little alarming. Let's see if we can have it be the usual time of at least 7-8 minutes long. That'd be nice. That way we could really get into this match. Not to mention it was the first time that ODB had actually saw action in the ring in God knows how long. Well, post-match is where it really got funny here because we would see Eric Young make an appearance. He's dressed in his really nice suit. Looks like he maybe went down to Men's Warehouse You're going to like the way you look, guarantee it. Still has that nappy little nest of a beard on his face as he comes to the ring. And he has, guess what in hand, folks? He has that bucket of chicken, and he has some beer, and he's giving it to ODB. And ODB, she's happy. She tells him it's about damn time and questions where he's been. Eric Young, he says, hey, I got a little bit sidetracked. I got caught up in Hollywood. Been doing pretty well for myself, but I'm back now. ODB, she tells him, hey, I don't really recognize who you are. This isn't the Eric Young that I am used to seeing. Where's the old Eric Young? And Eric Young, he kind of gets the vibe that he does seem a little bit off. And how does he counter that? Well, he strips all the way down to some red, white, and blue undies. And ODB was very pleased as she jumped on him with a piece of chicken in hand and kissed him. Really hilarious stuff right here. But, you know, I was thinking to myself, missed opportunity right here, because I'm thinking to myself, wow, newsflash here. Didn't we just see ODB and Eric Young a couple of weeks back sit up and have concern about Brooke Hogan, as ODB pointed out that Brooke Hogan wasn't too keen on EY being one of the TNA Knockout co-title holders, and that she was looking to do something about that. And EY pointed out to ODB, well, as long as you keep your half of the title, I keep my half of the title, and we're separated, we never are in the same place at the same time on Impact grounds, there's no way Brooke Hogan can get a hold of us. I just thought it was a little bit of a missed opportunity right here, as it really would have been nice to see Brooke Hogan come on down, or better yet, we had the return of TNA General Manager Hulk Hogan, who could have and should have made some type of an appearance and say, hey, it's nice to see you two lovely lovebirds reconnect, but EY, as you know, my daughter Brooke, she's been looking for you for quite some time now. Glad to see you two guys are here. I'm going to need to take away the tag knockout titles just for now. You'll possibly get them back next week, as both of you are scheduled to appear in this arena next week to talk with Brooke about the future of your tag championships. I just thought that would have been kind of nice to do, especially since they had mentioned that whole thing with EY being separated from ODB so they don't have to hear anything from Brooke. A little bit of a missed opportunity here. Let's see if maybe they can capitalize on this if they end up revisiting this couple next week, if they make another appearance together in the Impact Arena. But still, a great segment nonetheless, I thought. And from there, folks, we also saw a recap of AJ Styles, Claire Lynch storyline coming to a close. Oh, happy days. That is the main song that's being sung all over the place for TNA Wrestling fans, as we see footage of Bruce Pritchard with Taz and Al Snow as they are about to discuss the future of TNA gut check contestant Chris Louis. And so far, based on the few highlights that we got to hear and see, the judges were not really that impressed with what they saw. One of the main things that Bruce Pritchard had said was, you know, this is TNA gut check, and you have to really come in there. You got to lay it all out. You got to really go in deep. You got to dig deep. You got to go at it hard. And Bruce Pritchard really was not quite impressed with what he saw of Chris Louis. Taz, he shares the same sentiments, but also adds that he appreciates the story, that the backstory of this kid is just very heartbreaking, losing his brother or just the struggles that he had. Definitely something that a lot of wrestling fans can get behind. As wrestling fans, they love that type of wrestler that they feel that they can connect with, and that was something that Al Snow, Bruce Pritchard, that they also picked up on. As they mentioned, when you hear stories like that, it definitely connects with the audience, same way that an audience is able to connect with those in military, those with disability. And Bruce Pritchard, he was pretty much leading this whole roundtable discussion and telling the guys, well, you know what, we have a week to think about this. I know some of us already have our minds made up, and sure enough, they did have their minds made up of the three judges. They all pretty much had their minds made up, but Bruce Pritchard was like, you know, we have a week to think about this. Let's just try to be as open-minded as possible, despite going with what we feel initially and what we're thinking initially. As from there, folks, we saw another backstage pass where Jimmy J is with SoCal Val. Really, there was nothing of significant importance right here. They were on for like 90 seconds. That was pretty much it. Now, from there, we saw footage shown from earlier in the night as we got a recap of Austin Aries, Sting, Hulk Hogan, as they want a piece of the Aces and Eights. As coming up next, folks, we get to see the future of one Chris Louis. Now, it is decision time. It was a moment that we all have been waiting for. Now, as we said on Impact Showdown Radio last Thursday, as well as an enormous amount of you, the TNA Wrestling fans, and we paid attention to that poll that TNA Wrestling had put out there asking if Chris Louis should get a contract. Now, last we had checked, overwhelmingly, at least just over, I believe, 72-73% of TNA fans have voted no, he should not get a contract, and a lot of the comments basically shared the same sentiments as we do over here, as we basically say, you know what, he's got heart, but he's not quite ready. He needs a couple of more years under his belt. If you recall, I definitely had pointed out how winded he was after the match, as we had saw him on a backstage pass segment trying to be interviewed by Jeremy Borash, but all he could be concerned about was catching his breath, going, sitting down, having a cup of water, catching his breath. And, you know, this was definitely the moment right here where, okay, is it going to be crunch time or what? And you just kind of had something going in the back of your mind as you're seeing Chris Louis, who's about to learn his faith, as it's revealed that Chris Louis' wife and his baby are there in attendance. So you're kind of saying to yourself, oh, damn, not to have sympathy for my wife and baby card, because you're saying to yourself, oh, man, if he gets a contract, it's going to be because of his folks that were there in attendance. Well, that would not be an influence, folks, as we would see Taz sit up, and he would give Chris Louis a lot of props. He would say to him, look, you got a lot of heart, you have a lot of passion, you know, but really, other than your story, which I feel is very compelling, a lot of people can get behind, I just have to be for real with you from a professional standpoint, and I just don't feel that this is the right fit for you. I feel that you're way over your head, so I have to say no. So we got one vote of no from Judge Taz. Next, we go to Bruce Pritchard. Bruce Pritchard, he sits up, and he basically shares the same sentiments as Taz. He tells Chris Louis, hey, your story is definitely very heartbreaking to hear about your struggles and how you've just been able to turn things around. You know, really very great story, one that a lot of people can get behind, but it's time for you to come out of the dream. You have to face reality. Sorry, Chris, but it's a no. So for the first time now, in a long time it seems, we have a TNA gut check contestant that gets two no's back to back. If I'm not mistaken, this is the first time that we got two no's back-to-back, that there wasn't a kick-out. So very nice to see things switch up a little bit. But, folks, this segment would not end just like that. No. We see a camera shot, an awkward camera shot of Chris Louis' wife holding the baby in hand, kind of mumbling to herself, why did they bring us out here? I don't know if that was staged or what, but it just seemed like the camera was on her just a little bit too long. As quickly from there, and, sidetrack for a second here. For you guys that watched Impact Wrestling, was that really his wife or was it his sister? Because those two looked awfully freaking similar. Even the kid looked similar. That's one hell of some genes right there if that really was his wife, because they just look awkwardly and shockingly creepy familiar. They just look very similar to their facial structures. It's just really creepy. If you guys didn't really peep that out, if you have Impact Wrestling on your DVR, rewind it. You'll see what I'm talking about, or check it out on YouTube whenever somebody decides to upload it. You'll definitely see what I'm talking about. But the awkward moment right there with the wife holding the baby would quickly turn into a Mr. Who Wants a Mustache Ride? Joey Ryan, who was in attendance, and he has a bullhorn in hand, and he is just saying all types of good stuff to the TNA gut check judges. A little bit incoherent, but one of the main things I kept hearing Joey Ryan say was, how can you sit up and how can you play with another man's livelihood? TNA gut check is rigged. And we see Al Snow. He is just livid. He's pissed off at what he's hearing. He's trying to go over to Joey Ryan, but Bruce Pritchard is holding him back, telling him that he's not worth it. Well, Joey Ryan, remember that sucker punch that he gave Al Snow a couple of weeks back? Well, Joey Ryan would follow that up by splashing a cup of beer in the face of Al Snow before hauling ass, and we just see Al Snow. He just breaks away from Bruce's grips, climbs over the guardrail, and he just starts giving chase to Joey Ryan. That's the last time that we ever see those two guys again. Definitely a great moment right here that had a lot of TNA wrestling fans in buzz, in heat. They loved the fact that Joey Ryan had made another appearance. We even had some wrestling fans sit up, though, and they kind of looked at this and they said to themselves, okay, he has a contract, so who is he trying to kid? What's going on here? Well, I don't think, for those of you that are listening, I don't think it's a scenario where whether or not Joey Ryan has some type of a contract. I think you guys are kind of overanalyzing it just a little bit. I think you guys just need to appreciate this somewhat breath of fresh air that we're getting in TNA Wrestling by this guy that just keeps popping up every couple of weeks, and he's causing mischief. I mean, he kind of reminds me of Dennis the Menace, and Dennis Menace used to always come around Mr. Wilson's property, and Mr. Wilson, all he wanted to do was just be left in peace. He just wanted to watch his little TV, read his paper. He did not want to be bothered, and Dennis the Menace would always figure out some type of way to just get on every single last freaking nerve of Mr. Wilson, and that's basically how I'm looking at Joey Ryan, who's just been causing nothing more than mischief every time he pops up in TNA, and he's harassing the gut check judges. So for me, it's not really about whether or not he's offered some type of a contract. I think really if you want to really tackle that, you kind of have to put two and two together to make four, because we all know, especially if you do your homework, Joey Ryan lives in California, okay? So for Joey Ryan to keep popping up every couple of weeks like he is with TNA down in Florida, and then we don't see him again for a couple of weeks, and he's making his wrestling commitments, he's being all of those elsewhere close by the L.A. area or Cali area, you kind of have to put two and two together and say, okay, Joey Ryan, he must be under some type of a deal with TNA, because he's been popping up a lot Then once you've answered that question yourself, then just kick back, relax, and enjoy what's been happening with Joey Ryan. If you overanalyze it too much and you're just more concerned about whether or not he has a contract, it's going to drive you freaking insane. You're not going to enjoy what you're seeing, and you're just going to miss everything that's in front of you. So just kick back and enjoy the ride for what it's worth. It's definitely been fun so far. He's definitely been giving us wrestling fans, especially TNA wrestling fans, a lot to talk about within recent weeks. Very curious to see how all of this will eventually culminate. Maybe it will lead into a match at Bound for Glory as Joey Ryan will take on Al Snow. Who knows? Can't wait to see what's going to happen right there. But really nice to see that the right thing was done and Chris Louis was not offered a TNA contract. Now, from here, folks, we see that Joseph Park is talking to Hulk Hogan and Sting in a backstage segment where Joseph points out how he's very concerned with the aces and eights and points out a number of violations that they have broken within recent weeks, as he points out to Sting and Hogan that at this point, if Hogan did want to press any type of legal actions against them, he can definitely stick them with something. But Joseph goes even more further out on a limb and implores Hogan to let him see what he can dig up on the aces and eights, as he feels there isn't quite something right about this group. And Hulk Hogan, he tells him, "Hey, brother, if you're willing to do that for the Hulkster, go ahead and do it." And, that's pretty much what he said in a nutshell. And Joseph Park, he said, okay, well, I'll definitely get right on it. So we now have Joseph Park, who's been somewhat off TV within recent weeks. We now have him kind of coming back in there. Might he be the one that will finally break the big mystery about who all are behind the aces and eights? Well, we'll soon know, as he is now given the task of finding out all he can about this group. As from there, we see our next Bound for Glory series match, as we get to see, and get this, you guys are going to love this, we get to see Samoa Joe take on AJ Styles. Now, with regards to this match, we saw Samoa Joe defeat AJ Styles via pinfall to pick up 7 points. That would be followed up later on in our main event of the night, which was a fourth match, which was a Bound for Glory series match, as Jeff Hardy defeated the Olympic gold medalist Kurt Angle via pinfall. Notice the trend here that's been happening tonight, folks. Everybody that's been having their Bound for Glory series matches have all won via pinfall. Very weird right here. But none the case, Jeff Hardy defeated Kurt Angle. This was definitely one of my favorite highlights of the night. I don't know, I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but there was something that just seemed a little bit off about Impact tonight. I'm not sure what, but there was just something quite off about it. Not in a bad way, but it just seemed like a few things were missing. But this match was definitely on point. It was one of my favorites of the night. It was a 5-star quality type of match, I felt, for TV, that is. And these two guys, they just tore the roof off. I mean, we saw Jeff Hardy. He looked for a whisper in the wind at least 2-3 times just to try to take out Kurt Angle. I mean, it was just a really great match. I love what happened post-match, as we just saw Kurt Angle. He just has his head down, and he's kind of saying to himself, man, so close. What the hell is going to happen now? Now what do I do? What happens now? And from there, folks, we see Jeremy Borash, who comes out, and he updates us on the new Bound for Glory leaderboards, as pretty much at this point, the points doesn't quite matter right now. It's pretty much we are now officially into the final 5 participants that are in this Bound for Glory series, who will all be facing each other in the weeks to come, as we will try to narrow it down to 2 contestants who will go head-to-head at the No Surrender pay-per-view, where a new number one contender will be named to take on the TNA World Heavyweight Champion Austin Aries for the big belt. And your 5 participants are as followed. James Storm with a commanding 73 points. Samoa Joe with 67 points. Rob Van Dam with 62 points. Bully Ray with 55 points. Jeff Hardy with 49 points. Now, all 5 of these men, they will be seeing some type of action within the weeks to come. On next week's episode of Impact Wrestling Live, we will see 4 of these men get it on in a contest. So it's going to be really cool. Of course, we'll definitely be covering that episode, and we'll give you guys the full fallout of that, as well as in-depth review of it, fan reactions, of course. You know how we do it over here on Impact Showdown Radio. And coming up from there, folks, we saw the final main attraction of the night as we saw Austin Aries, who was standing in the ring calling out aces and eights, but he soon quickly joined by Hulk Hogan and Sting, as well as other members on the TNA roster. As Hulk Hogan, he feels that he made a promise to Austin Aries that he was not going to be alone, and that though he's decided to take this fight up for himself, that Hogan and crew, they were definitely there to support him, whatever he wanted to do. As they all called for aces and eights to come out to the ring, make their presence felt. Well, we would see aces and eights come out, and that big Bane-looking leader, as I like to call him, folks, we see him and the rest of aces and eights, they come out. They come from, I believe, somewhere out in the crowd. And aces and eights, they're just looking on, and we see Hulk Hogan. He sends a challenge out to the gang. He says, look, why don't you send one of your best guys into the ring to take on Austin Aries one-on-one? Well, the aces and eights leader, that is, he sits up, he looks at this, and he just gestures for somebody to get into the ring. We see this very huge guy, just big guys that are in this gang, come into the ring, and he challenges Austin Aries. The 2 of these guys, they're throwing it down. They're going back and forth for a little bit, but then eventually it turns into an all-out brawl as we see aces and eights. They get in the ring. Hulk Hogan and crew, they go on down there. They're trying to back up the champion, and they're fighting aces and eights as well. Did anybody notice Hulk Hogan was just standing in the lower right-hand corner, not doing anything, not punching anybody? He's just kind of looking on, not really doing what classic Hogan would do. I guess those injuries have really caught up to him. It's all good. I just felt so heartbroken just seeing Hulk Hogan just kind of stand there like, yeah, like that, brother. I mean, it was just kind of sad just seeing him stand off in the side like that. But anytime you can notice that Hulk Hogan is just standing there a little bit too long, you know what that says to me, folks? That says that the camera is in place for too long. They need to quickly move it. It should have been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then cut to another camera angle. It seemed like the camera was on Hulk Hogan for at least 15 seconds as he just stood there. And for me, that's a little bit too long, as you got to keep the action moving. Well, critical point would come towards the end of the night here, right before Impact Wrestling went off the air, as we saw one member of Aces and Eights, possibly, not really sure. This guy was wearing all black. He had on a long black sleeve T-shirt. He had on black dress pants. His hair was somewhat pulled back into the beginning of a ponytail. It looked like he was trying to grow out a ponytail, but it's not quite there yet. We see him get in the ring, and right before he attacks, and he does attack, he attacks Austin Aries. We see him quickly try to cover his face up. It was almost kind of like, oh, snap, I forgot to put something over my face. So he takes his shirt and he kind of puts it over his nose, and then he takes a some type of piece of hardware. I did have the name of it, but there was just so much going on, and then I had to get ready to come on air for you guys. I didn't quite catch the name of whatever it was that he hit Austin Aries with. I want to say it was a flapjack. I don't know what the heck it was, something ending in jack. But he hits Austin Aries over the head with it, and Austin Aries is just laid out. And the guy just quickly hauls ass, as well as other Aces and Eights members. They run off as Bully Ray. Of all the people to see if the champion is okay, we see Bully Ray who's there, and he's letting Hogan and the rest of the guys know, hey, that guy right there, he just hit Austin with that thing. And so Impact Wrestling Live would go off with a outcode Austin Aries, and this just really spoke large volumes in my head, especially at some of the chants that I heard from the crowd, as I swear, and I actually played it back twice. As soon as I heard the chants, I heard at least one guy in particular, and for you guys that saw it, I definitely want you to rewind it. You could hear one guy very loudly say, Garrett. So you're kind of under the impression here, okay, did Garrett Bischoff actually get in there? Is he actually associated with the Aces and Eights? Well, hopefully we'll know a little something next week, as I'm really hoping that Hulk Hogan and Sting, they will be able to put their brains together along with Joseph, and maybe they can play back the footage of the attack that happened to Austin Aries tonight, and they're able to try to look at some still images of this guy that came into the ring and attacked the champion. Maybe they can stretch it out for possibly 2-3 weeks. That can lead them into the big mystery of who was that guy, and maybe that can just be an overall domino effect into who else are behind Aces and Eights. Definitely a lot more questions being asked right here. You know, speaking of the mystery behind the Aces and Eights, if you haven't checked out the article yet, I got a really cool article up that's been getting a lot of buzz. A lot of people, they've been retweeting it. They've been Google Plusing it. It's at our website at infinityOneProductions.com. I wrote a really nice piece basically saying Aces and Eights, who could these men be behind the mask? It's a really great piece. You'll definitely like it. I give my picks. I tried to make my picks be as unique as possible. I was not inspired by anybody else's picks. I just actually sat down and I just thought about what all I've been seeing thus far, and I kind of approached it in a way, if I was writing it, who would I like to see be the members? So you definitely will appreciate that piece. You can check that out when you get a free chance over the Labor Day holiday weekend at InfinityOneProductions.com. It's on the main page. Won't have that much of a hard time finding. Other than that, I thought that tonight's episode of Impact Wrestling was definitely, once again, seemed like it was missing a few things. I couldn't quite put my finger on it. I know one of the things that jumped out at me tonight was no appearance from the television champion Devon, not unless he was somewhere in the back or maybe he was brawling with Aces and Eights. We just didn't really get to see him. But last I checked, we didn't see Devon, which actually explains a lot because we have some Devon news for you guys when we come back from commercial break. But other than Devon not really being there, I thought that tonight's episode of Impact Wrestling, it was definitely another solid show. I couldn't really find anything wrong with it other than what had happened with ODB, Eric Young. That was really a moment right there that really should have been capitalized by one of the Hogans. I also didn't like the fact that we didn't get another appearance from Miss Tessmacher. It really would have been nice to see her grace us with another appearance. And then one other thing that I thought was very questionable was the recent hiatus of Chavo Guerrero. Now, we're hearing that Chavo Guerrero probably won't be back in action until after the Bound for Glory series. I hope that's not the case because Chavo Guerrero, while the fans are still buzzing about him, or whatever buzz there still may be about him joining TNA Wrestling, it definitely needs to continue to be built on. The momentum needs to continue to be hyped. I definitely want to see him do more appearances. If I'm not mistaken, Chavo Guerrero, I believe he's been off TV now for at least almost 3 weeks. So hopefully next week we can see him make some type of a return. I'm all for it if we don't really put the spotlight on Chavo until after Bound for Glory series is over, but at least have him pop up every other week or something just so he can still come off a little bit relevant and the fans can definitely still rally behind him. The fan support can continue to grow. Other than that, other than those few areas, I definitely thought TNA Impact Wrestling was solid tonight. I love how they've been handling Aces and Eights. I love how Joseph Park is now involved, as it just seemed like after he had beat Bully Ray for a second time, it just kind of seemed as if Joseph Park was just in limbo there. So I'm really glad seeing that he's back at it this time around and he's involved with this whole Aces and Eights storyline. Can't wait to see how much of a critical role that he's going to be playing within weeks to come. Definitely love the fact that even though Aces and Eights pretty much did the same thing that they did last week to end Impact Wrestling, it's kind of nice to see that they threw something new in there, as we got this guy that definitely was not wearing any type of Aces and Eights attire, but he just came out and attacked the champion. I definitely love what's happening right there. Like I said, his attire was completely different from what Aces and Eights wore, so you're kind of under the impression, okay, was this guy going into business for himself, or was this guy sitting up and just so happens to actually be a part of Aces and Eights? So new developments, new questions are being asked. I love that. Great time to be a TNA Wrestling fan right now. They've been doing pretty good within recent weeks. All right, this is what we're going to do right now. We're going to go on ahead and we're going to take a brief commercial break, and I definitely need one because I need something very cold to drink over here. I don't know if you guys are noticing, but I'm kind of struggling on tonight's show here. It's been very, very hot down here the past couple of days. So I'm going to enjoy something very refreshing, and then when we come right back, we're going to jump right into it. We'll get you guys caught up on the latest in TNA Wrestling news. Very brief, not too many headlines that's been jumping out there this week, but definitely some major headlines that kind of make you want to say, really? You'll definitely like some of the stories that we'll be sharing with you guys. And we'll also get ready and open up the phone lines, and we'll let you guys know what we got planned for this weekend. So hang tight, folks. You're listening to the Thursday night edition of Impact Showdown Radio. We'll be coming right back in just under 3 minutes, folks. So do hang tight. We'll be right back.
Tired of those wrestling websites that give you redirects, spyware, weird pop-ups? How about those misleading headlines? Instead of hitting the keyboard in frustration, why not visit InfinityOneProductions.com? Infinity One is the source for wrestling-related news and so much more without all the hassle. Visit InfinityOneProductions.com. Your keyboard will thank you.
Hey guys, Lee Sanders here with the RCWR Show, and I'd like to take this time out to tell you about one or two quick apps that I think you should check out when you get a free moment. First app I'd like to recommend to you is the app from Stitcher. Now, Stitcher allows you to be able to play all our episodes of the RCWR Show and Impact Showdown on your portable devices, such as an Android phone, Kindle Fire, iPad, you name it, it'll be able to play it. So definitely highly recommend that you check that out. It's available for free in the App Store. Stitcher, newest smart way to play radio. Also, another cool app that I'd like to recommend to you all is a new app that came out not too long ago from Apple. That's right, Apple has recently come out with a free podcast app. Now, this app is really cool, folks, because after we are done doing our shows, all you have to do is just subscribe to our episodes. And you can do this by downloading this new free podcast app. All you have to do, visit the App Store, on your iPhone or iPad and just search podcast. Once the app is downloaded, you can then type in the name of our shows, the RCWR Show and Impact Showdown, and you'll be able to subscribe. It's that easy. So you have 2 cool free apps that you can check out and take all our episodes with you on the go. So get to it already.
All right, and we're back. This is Impact Showdown Radio coming at you live right now on blogtalkradio.com/the RCWR Show and at our sister website at infinityOneProductions.com. Definitely needed that break right there. Okay, I'm refreshed. I'm ready to go. Let's see if we can do a stronger segment than last time. Apologize to those of you if you felt I was a little bit off right there. I definitely have been taking this heat kind of bad down here the past few days. So, in our last segment, we were talking about what all had happened with TNA Wrestling, and I definitely just wanted to bring up a very valid point here before we go into TNA Wrestling-related news. Now, we were sitting up throughout the night, and we actually had befriended somebody pretty cool. We had befriended the Bellator light heavyweight champion, Michael Chandler, and he was telling us how he was a little bit upset that Dixie Carter, Impact Wrestling, they haven't taken the time to acknowledge him and the other 12 Bellator fighters that were there, and he pretty much had sent out a tweet asking fans of Bellator and Impact Wrestling if they could retweet his message so that it could eventually get the attention of Dixie and basically sit up and have them be acknowledged. So we sat up and we just kept going back and forth with him. We were like, hey, where are you wearing, where you guys are sitting, so we know, where to look for you guys. And he was really cool, really nice guy. And we did our best. We definitely sat up and we got the message out there. We interacted with Dixie Carter and Impact Wrestling directly, and actually from time to time, Impact Wrestling, they do favorite our tweets. They do reply to us once in a blue moon, so we definitely knew that when we had sent out a tweet saying, hey, why don't you show some love for the Bellator fighters that's there, it's kind of common sense here. It took them a little bit. I mean, man, we had to wait almost, 30 minutes before Impact went off the air, before they had finally got a acknowledgement. And it was only 10 seconds long, but they had finally got an acknowledgement. And, I just thought that this was purely executed. I just kind of felt that this was a missed opportunity right here, man, because this could have been an opportunity for Christy Hemme, Jeremy Borash to maybe sit up and do an interview with Michael Chandler, or he could have sat up and he could have interviewed all of the guys throughout the night, asking them how were they enjoying Impact Wrestling, asking them what did they think about the matches, what did they think about the Knockouts match, asking them were they looking forward to the Bound for Glory series, get their comments about King Mojo Jojo, as I like to call him, getting ready to come into TNA Wrestling, as he's going to be making his debut in October, is what we had been able to gather. He's getting ready to do training right now leading up to his TNA Wrestling debut in October. So I just thought it was kind of a missed opportunity right here where they really could have capitalized on their collaboration with Bellator Fighting. I definitely was kind of nodding my head saying, man, 30 minutes to go until the show is off the air. You give these guys a 10-second plug when you guys should have been talking to them throughout the night. Now, if you ask me personally, what I had thought it would have been too much plugging or a little bit too much for that casual wrestling fan that can only focus but on so much as you're trying to hit them with 3, 4, 5 different things that's not related to wrestling. Yeah, it might be a little bit too much, but when you have them right there and you do it right, a one-on-one course, man, it definitely should have been executed that way. Very curious to see how they're going to handle King Mojo Jojo when he gets ready to come make his TNA Wrestling debut. Hopefully it'll be more executed than what had went down with his fellow Bellator fighters. Now, in other TNA Wrestling news, we definitely got to let you guys know, in case you haven't heard, it looks like Devon Dudley is coming to an end with his TNA contract, as it's been revealed that Devon, TNA, looks like they have not been able to iron out a new deal as far as him continuing to stay with the company, and his contract expires with TNA actually this week. So it is strongly believed that he's going to be parting ways with the organization effective immediately. Now, he had this to say on Twitter, which is, "I would like to thank the TNA fans for making the last 7 years fun. I'm sure we'll see each other again down the road real soon. I'm ready to see where God bring me to next. I can't wait. I see the big thing on the way. Oh, and hell no, I'm not retiring." So, very shocking news right here. Looks like Devon is on his way out as well. And it looks like they just were not able to reach a new agreement on a contract. Now, he would also retweet a message stating, "I'll say this to you boys, deserve whatever you're asking for plus 25%. So kind of sounds like right here this was probably a case where maybe Devon perhaps wanted to keep the current deal that he had, or maybe he wanted just a little bit more. And as we all know, Bruce Pritchard, he's been put in charge of making those cuts. Maybe he was offering Devon just a little bit too low. Maybe he went too low there, and Devon wasn't quite feeling that. Who knows, folks? But it is what it is. Now, Bully Ray, on the other hand, for those of you that are curious, his contract will also expire this week. Now, it's being suggested on Twitter that he may part ways with the organization come October at the Bound for Glory pay-per-view, which is going to be taking place in Phoenix, Arizona. Now, this is what he had to say about the matter on Twitter, and I quote, "Don't matter where you start, matters where you matters." That's just how he's spelling it. Matters where you finish. See ya in Phoenix. Strongest, the longest, #Bully Nation. So very curious to see what's going to happen right here. Could this really be a case where TNA Wrestling could lose both of these guys? Man, this would be, I must admit, a significant impact. Say what you want about Devon not putting up that television title up for grabs every single week. I will definitely be the first one to say, ever since he became the television champion, I always had a problem with him not defending it on a weekly basis, but I never bashed him for his wrestling. I always thought he was a good wrestler. I used to think he was only a great tag team specialist, but within the recent years of singles competition work that he's been doing for TNA Wrestling, he has just gotten better and better and better. I love how he's been taking great care of himself physically, as he's in the best shape of his life right now, best I've seen him in years. And we go over on the other side, We see Bully Ray, who, as we have said time and time again on Impact Showdown Radio, the man has just come a long way. I mean, can you just imagine that, folks, to not see on Impact Wrestling Devon and Bully Ray? That's a scary picture to think of, because it's definitely going to feel a bit naked. And at the same time, you know, other guys are really going to have to step up, as if they are going to be leaving, they have not reached a new deal. I mean, this definitely creates two major spots that's going to be open, and the question is now asked, who is going to be willing to step up in their place? We have some TNA wrestlers that are complaining about not really being given the opportunity to shine, because opportunities are being given to veteran wrestlers who some feel are using backstage politics or using who they're buddies with, good buddies at that, to be able to get one over. Well, if these two guys are going to be rolling now, this definitely creates some openings. Now it's time to put up or shut up. So very curious to see what's going to be happening with this. Of course, we'll definitely be staying on top of both of these guys. We'll get you guys caught up on whatever we're able to come across on our wrestling website page over at InfinityOneProductions.com. We'll also get you guys caught up on our Facebook page at Infinity One Productions. But, man, I definitely, as a TNA wrestling fan, I would say I would be a little bit disappointed if these two guys were to leave. Let's just hope that somehow between now and then, maybe something can happen where these guys can stay. I know one thing is for certain. I've never heard of one of these two guys just doing their thing and the other one just goes and does something else. You got to have both of them. I don't know why, but you just got to have both of them. These guys have been road buddies. They've been best friends. These guys might as well call themselves blood brothers. They've been at it for a long time. So it just really would not be right to see one in one promotion and the other one off at another one. So hopefully maybe something can happen where these two guys are able to still continue being in the organization. If not, I know sooner or later we're probably going to have to answer this question: could they possibly be WWE bound? Well, that's a whole different other topic, and I tell you what, we'll definitely go more into detail about this when we get ready to cover this on a special edition of the RCWR Show Weekend Edition that's going to be coming live at you this Saturday at 2 p.m. on blogtalkradio.com and at our sister website at InfinityOneProductions.com. We'll definitely tackle this and ask, hey, should these guys be WWE bound? And if so, how should they be utilized? We'll definitely tackle that. And we'll also highlight Chris Jericho, who recently had left the organization. Definitely brings up a very interesting question to my mind, which is actually going to be an article I'm going to be writing up this weekend. If and when Chris Jericho returns, how should he be utilized in the WWE? What should he do next? You'll definitely like what I have to say about that in a special in-depth piece that I'll be doing for the website, and I'll be talking about exclusively in more detail on the RCWR Show Weekend Edition. We'll also get you caught up on the very latest in wrestling-related news, get you caught up on the latest installment of SmackDown, as only on the Weekend Edition of the RCWR Show will you find an in-depth look into what all you missed on Friday Night SmackDown. So it's going to be pretty cool. We'll also have the latest in music, entertainment news, and we'll get you guys a few video game reviews. I know we were supposed to review the new WWE WrestleFest video game, and I've been staying on top of that game all week, looking for it to be released. They had a date of August 29th that has already come and gone. Nothing has still come out yet. We have already been in contact with WWE Games THQ, WWE SmackDown lead designer, Corey. We got in contact with all of them. We're waiting for a reply back. Hopefully we'll have something we can read to you guys when we go on the air this Saturday. So we'll definitely keep you guys posted on that. But no WWE WrestleFest yet. You'd be surprised how many people have been looking for this game, and more surprisingly, how many of them are very upset. Keep cool, my babies. Keep cool. You still got WWE 12. Play that for a little bit. If you want to play WrestleFest that bad, it is available for the iPod Touch, for the iPad, all types of smartphones, mobile devices. Get your fixings right there until it comes out for the PlayStation and Xbox. Other than that, other TNA wrestling news that we definitely want to share for you guys, and I was laughing my ass off when I had heard this. Now, Heartland Connection, they had reported this. They revealed that 2 men were arrested earlier this week for stealing the TNA World Heavyweight Championship belt and a replica at a TNA live event in Ottawa. I don't even know how to pronounce the rest of that, but that's as close as I'm going to get to it. And this all had went back on August 18th. Now, the Ottawa Police Department received a report on August 20th that the belt, which is valued to be, get this, at $6,000, along with the replica belt, which is valued at $400, was stolen during an event at the Bridgeview Center. Both the title belt and the replica have been since recovered. Now, 33-year-old Joel Ryan Luke of Ottawa was arrested yesterday and was released from county jail after posting $5,000 bond. He was charged with theft in the second degree, which is a Class D felony. Meanwhile, 39-year-old Forrest Courtney Jameson of Ottawa was arrested today and was also released from the same county jail after posting $3,000 bond. He was charged with accessory after the fact, which is an aggravated misdemeanor. So, man, WTF moment right there. And that is pretty much going to do it for TNA wrestling-related news. Oh, we definitely got to show TNA Wrestling some love, as they had pulled in some massive numbers last week for their Open Fight Night edition of TNA Wrestling. They had did some pretty huge numbers. We definitely got to congratulate them, as they scored a 1.15 rating with 1.46 million viewers. Now, we're definitely going to have the month of August recap for TNA Impact ratings on next Thursday's Impact Showdown Radio, so you definitely want to check that out. I'll definitely give a special in-depth look into how the month of August has been for TNA Wrestling and give you a taste of maybe what might be to come for Impact Wrestling ratings-wise, as when it really counts the most, it's September that they really need to come strong so that they could possibly extend their live status even longer. So that's going to do it for TNA wrestling-related news. We're going to go on ahead now, and we're going to open up the phone lines for just a little bit. Then we'll recap, let you guys know what you can expect for this weekend before we go off the air for the night. So if you guys want to call, feel free to do so. You can kick back, smile, and dial right now. We're at 646-478-3525. Once again, that's 646-478-3525. Let's go on ahead and let's go to the Michigan area where we got Dave on hold here. Dave, you're live on air, my friend.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, pretty good.
Man, I feel bad for Devon now. I feel like I jinxed him. Because if you remember last week, I said they can just do away with the TV title. I didn't mean the champion.
I know. I remember.
I was like, geez, I'm sorry, Devon. I feel like I should be tweeting like, man, I'm sorry. I think they just fired him like that. I was like, oh.
I gotta definitely pick your brain here, and I'm sure a lot of other TNA wrestling fans, they're probably hearing what was happening with Devon and Bully Ray, and they're probably saying, "Are you serious?" man. What's your take on this whole crap?
I get it. I mean, because it's a business. I'm going to do a baseball analogy for you. I don't know if you follow baseball or not. Okay, you can go to Chicago, and you can buy a good young black player for about maybe $4 or $5 million to sign him. Or you can go to the Dominican Republic and sign someone for about $5,000 for 10 years or whatever. Or maybe not that exact number, but a lot smaller. But that's what's happening in baseball nowadays. You're getting a lot of these Dominican players really cheap, or Venezuelan, really cheap, compared to what you can over here in the U.S. A lot of people aren't happy about it, but it's a business.
Yeah.
And TNA, I kind of see them doing the same thing in a way. I still want to see this Alex Silva guy wrestle a little bit. I think that's his name. But, I mean, they're going for the younger guys, it seems like. I remember a couple of years back when Paul Heyman did an interview about TNA, and he said that I would go in there and fire everyone over 40 and take all 25-year-olds.
I remember that interview. Yeah, that was a damn good interview, too.
Yeah, it was.
Because that was fresh. That interview that he did, it was fresh off of the whole, because he was just in controversy back then. It was like, is he coming to TNA? And Paul Heyman, he pretty much had silenced everybody when he sat up and said, look, the only way I would come into TNA Wrestling is if I was given true creative control, and that control would mean coming in there and, like you said, fire everybody that's under 40 or over 40 and start with just young guys.
Yeah, he used the baseball analogy, too, where he's basically just, I'm just remembering off the top of my head, but I remember him saying that he would want to try to find that guy who could hit the 5,000 home runs like A-Rod did, 500 home runs, my bad, hit the 500, take a chance on one of the young guys. And I like that idea because I'm kind of sick of Hogan, and I love Hogan and Sting, but I'm just getting kind of, instead of losing all these guys, they keep losing. They keep cutting their money. Forget about everyone else. And I was surprised this morning. I actually recorded the Fox and Friends to check out what Hogan was going to say.
Yeah, how was that?
Enough, he promoted TNA. I was like, holy crap.
About damn time. What'd he say?
He said, like, well, so he's talking about how he's a Mitt Romney supporter. And then he said, I'm going to go tune into Impact tonight on Spike at 8 o'clock. And then I'm going to check out what Mitt's saying. I'm like, how are you going to do that when you're on TV? I was just confused. Like, how are you going to watch Mitt now? You're on news.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we started to play the audio because I came across the audio of Hulk Hogan doing the interview because I had like a 3-minute piece. But I was like,
He wasn't on there that long. He was like maybe 3 minutes. It's probably the whole piece.
Yeah. I figured it really wasn't anything that much significant. I mean, I'm all for that analogy, and I think that's a great analogy right there with regards to, how TNA is probably trying to approach this. But at the same time, I'm kind of saying to myself, unless you got these other young guys that's just ready to go, unfortunately, I just kind of feel like you need a Bully Ray and you need a Devon to stay around just a little bit longer, I agree
with you with Bully Ray. I'm not so much sure you need Devon. I like Devon and Bully Ray, great tag team.
Mm-hmm.
But what was Devon really doing? He wasn't really doing anything. The last significant thing I can really remember him do was having a thing with the Pope. That was it. I mean, since he broke off as a singles competitor, yeah, he won the TV title, but I mean, he never really defended it. I thought they should have named it the pay-per-view title because it was only defended on pay-per-views, it seems like.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't really do anything. But we show up, team up with Garrett, and then, I mean, that was really it. I mean, they didn't use Zima Ion tonight again. It's only, 2 weeks in a row? They haven't used him, and that's another, man, you got people, they got guys there, but they're more worried about, you got all these old guys there. I'm not trying to call Hardy and Angle old, but they're up there in age.
Yeah.
I mean, also RVD, again, guys who are ego guys who demand, I'm not saying they're demanding, but they have to have their time on TV.
Yeah.
they're using the spots on TV for the older guys, which I get it because these are the most recognizable characters they have.
Exactly. Yeah.
You go flipping through the channel. Oh, hey, there's RVD.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, there's Jeff Hardy and Kurt Angle. I mean,
not to mention, Dave, for the third consecutive week now, we have not seen Robert Roode.
Yeah, well, to me, that's building up something. They're saving that. And I am kind of confused. I was thinking about this today about the whole travel thing. That confuses the hell out of me. I was like, okay, you bring him in for 1 week.
Right.
Or 2 weeks, he talks for a minute, has one okay match, one pay-per-view match. Is he kind of like, is that what today's wrestling is mostly about? Is like, okay, we want to get you to come in for this many dates. Is that basically what wrestling is nowadays? Is just come and work these dates? It's starting to seem that way.
Yeah.
Like, I only agree to work this, and this. This means I'll give you 50 dates for the rest of the year. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they're building up something later on for him. Which was Bobby Roode. I mean, I don't know how his contract has worked, but it just seems like you'd want all these guys more on your shows instead of, like, I've seen where Chavo tweeted out that he's going to be at a TNA house show or something like that. Like, why not use these dates for your show instead of a house show that no one will see? Well, maybe 300 people go to the live show, and you could have millions of people watching it.
I don't know, man. It's very weird, though.
I just don't know. I mean, I don't have a video game to review yet this weekend, but I got to suggest, I don't know if you're really into the Madden games, but I would love for you to review that Madden game.
I know I got the demo. It's on the back burner. I'm definitely eyeballing it because I was a little bit disappointed that THQ didn't release any type of a statement for the WrestleFest game. And like I said, we had a lot of people that were eagerly anticipating that game. I know some of my friends, and they're diehard WWE video gamers, they were waiting until like 4, 5 o'clock in the morning to download this game and get their fix. And they never saw it happen. I'm like, okay, we definitely need to know what's going on here because, but then also it's one of those type of deals where unless you hear, and I can't stress this enough, and it's very cool that we are on radio, if you guys don't hear WWE announce it on Tout or Twitter or Facebook or even on an episode of Raw or SmackDown that they're getting ready to release something, then don't believe the dates that you hear. I will give WWE, Raw, and SmackDown a lot of freaking props. When it comes to their video games and the release dates, they put in their spots.
Yeah, but, I mean, my brother just went and got that new Madden game, and he was I was checking it out, and I wasn't really feeling it that much because they took out the franchise, or the offline fantasy franchise mode. And that's one of the things that's been in their games for years. As of tonight, I mean, those are some good wrestling. I didn't get to check out the YouTube thing tonight, but see how good they did tonight, but assume they're all right. But yeah, I think it was like RVD and James Storm was okay. I mean, nothing great. I mean, I think AJ Styles and Samoa Joe was a really good match, and so was Hardy and Angle. And it seems like that crowd is just getting better and better each week.
Yeah, I don't know what type of crowd it is that they have that they keep bringing in there, but they definitely need to keep that momentum going. Right crowd definitely makes for a very good episode, especially if you just so happen to have a very weak episode of Impact Wrestling. It's amazing how far a crowd can go if you have the right one, and sometimes you can kind of get away with just a little bit of almost anything. Dave, we thank you for that call. As always, we're going to go on ahead and wrap up the show. I'm a little bit under the weather right now. I am not feeling too good. I definitely would have loved to be on the air longer, but we're just going to go on ahead and wrap it up, and I'm just going to try to rest up for Saturday's show. Coming up this Saturday, by the way, as I had mentioned earlier, we were supposed to have a review for that WWE WrestleFest video game. I don't know. Maybe we'll look into the Madden. I know that there's a demo that's out. I know personally I'm not really too keen on the Madden franchise, but I'll definitely check out the demo. And who knows, maybe I'll go ahead and maybe get in contact with my little buddy and see if maybe I can get a hold of the actual game if I like the demo itself, as I got a few connections. And maybe we could have a review for you guys on Saturday's show. If not, I definitely want to review the new Metal Gear Solid game that has come out for Xbox Live, so we definitely want to let you guys know about that. Definitely, if you're a Metal Gear Solid fan, you definitely want to tune in to this Saturday's the RCWR Show Weekend Edition. We'll definitely hook you up for that. We'll also cover more on what all has been happening in wrestling-related news, get you guys caught up on Friday Night SmackDown, and a hell of a lot more. It's going to be a really cool jam-packed show. If you haven't checked out the Weekend Edition of the RCWR Show, do yourself a favor, just to get an idea of what you can expect this Saturday. Go backtrack and listen to our last episode that we did on Saturday. That Weekend Edition, it freaking rocked. I've been receiving quite a bit of praise for that episode. Really cool. Go check it out. And in the meantime, that is pretty much going to do it. For those of you that are getting ready to travel out for the Labor Day holiday, you all be safe. Drive safely. If you see somebody stuck on the road, do the right thing. Ask them if they have a cell phone. If not, offer to call AAA for them or whatever. Don't leave them hanging like that. Also, that's going to do it. We're out of here. You see, you thought I was getting ready to say something else, but nah, that's just it. I'm out of here, folks. I'm not feeling too good. I'm off the air. I'm just going to go chill